You're not stuck with studying English grammar and vocabulary. Your thinking is stuck, and most probably your thinking is based on all the habits of this inefficient, old school, completely waste of time kind of studying English that you picked up at school. You might be afraid of making mistakes or taking risks as you speak English and saying something that you're not 100% sure of how to say. You're probably memorizing a lot of words or translating word by word from your first language. You might also be memorizing words, translating word by word from your first language, but you still feel like you're not sounding natural. And you're too focused on grammatical accuracy instead of focusing on communicating more effectively and clearly. Which means you might be studying English as a school subject instead of learning it as a skill. And learning involves risks, discomfort, making mistakes, learning vocabulary in the long term so you'll be able to remember it and recall it whenever you need it, and learning English through listening. There is nothing wrong with studying English if your goal is to pass an exam or to take tests, and most people spend their entire adult lives being terrified of making mistakes, taking risks because they are afraid of failure, and not knowing what to say because part of them wants to control every conversation that they are involved in, or because they keep on studying English the same way as they did in school and expecting a different result. But if school didn't take them to fluency, how would the same strategies as adults take them to fluency? And I'm inviting you to reflect on this. What do you currently do about your English that makes you feel like you're stuck with studying English grammar and vocabulary? And why do you do what you do? Is it because it's based on the most recent scientific research on how our brain is learning languages naturally? These are the first questions I ask anyone who enters my coaching program, but most people never even ask themselves these questions. Why are you scared of making mistakes? Is that how your brain learns a language naturally? Is that how you learned your first language naturally? Because you kept avoiding making mistakes and taking risks? And why do you think people might be making fun of you, or people might think badly of you because you make mistakes or because you mispronounce words? What's your proof? In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 extremely powerful activities that will help you learn English more effectively, activities that I have tried and tested on myself and on my students as well. Activities that will help you hesitate less, make fewer mistakes, speak English more clearly and naturally, and remember vocabulary more effectively. Hey English learner, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Chubby. I'm an English fluency, learning and language anxiety coach, and this is a channel for serious English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and how to speak English more freely, confidently and comfortably with the help of listening and spoken interaction. So if these are topics that you're interested in and you'd like to find out more about, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to get my weekly updates, long and short form videos. And if you don't like watching videos, you can read the description and see what I have for you. The first activity that I'm about to show you is where it all starts, and it's the skill that most struggling English students avoid actively working on, or they just don't pay attention when they're doing it. The reason they make so many mistakes, hesitate a lot, don't sound natural, and don't have a clear pronunciation: active listening. Think about how come you speak your first English so well. Do you ever think of the grammar of your first language when you speak your first language? People don't go, I'm going to use make because I remember that make refers to doing something creative, or I'm talking about a planned future event, so I'm going to use I'm going to. The reason why my students speak English so naturally and they make so much more progress with their fluency than most people, and rarely, if ever, feel stuck with studying English grammar and vocabulary, is because we focus on learning grammar and vocabulary naturally from real context. Something I talk more about in this video, but if you're interested in full-on trainings on how you could make the most of your time that you spend learning English, whether it's through reading articles, watching an episode of a series, watching other videos, listening to podcasts, and you'd like to learn vocabulary from them, make sure you click the first link in the description below and join my free English community, Build Your Fluency, which will also allow you to connect with other serious, ambitious English learners from all around the world. This is something you can simply do if you want to speak with good grammar and use more natural ways to express yourself in English instead of translating word by word from your first language. Pick a video or a 10-20 minute section of a series or a movie that you're watching and use it to actively learn from it. But if you're not paying close, conscious attention to the language of the movie or series you're watching, you're very unlikely to pick up any useful expression or phrase that you could use, especially use them grammatically correctly. So watch the story or the excerpt of the story once, focusing on understanding as much as you can from it. Here, your attention should be on the story and on the message of the conversation. And then what you're going to do is watch the excerpt or the video again, this time paying close attention to the language being used in those conversations. And ask yourself this question: is this something that I can imagine using in a future conversation? Especially if the sentence or the phrase is something that you use to communicate in your first language, simply take notes of it and try to remember exactly how it was used in that conversation, because that's going to help you remember it in the future. For example, in the following clip from a series, watch out for how the word make is used at the end of the scene in a completely different meaning.
Aren't you a little young for a midlife crisis?
I mean, I smoke what, like 2 packs a day? I have the internal organs of a man twice my age. If I make it to my low 70s, I'll be shocked.
Now the expression make it to my low 70s is something you could simply take notes of, because you're not likely to be able to translate from your first language to convey exactly the same message, and it's also quite a useful expression to use. What I did when I was learning English was do exactly the same with 3 to 5 expressions from every excerpt of a video or episode of a series that I watched. And in this way, if you keep reviewing expressions in a lot of effective ways that I always teach my students how to do, and start using them in future conversations, you will always have a few natural expressions that you can start using to communicate in a more informal way and not sound like a textbook or as if you were translating. The next step, which is something you can hear more about in this video, is reviewing vocabulary, which is something we especially focus on with my students to help them remember vocabulary in the conversations they are having and to help them expand their active vocabulary instead of just piling up a bunch of passive vocabulary that they understand from what they read or listen to, but they can't use. The second powerful activity that we often use with my students inside my fluency program, the Proficiency Fortress, is something that's going to help you remember vocabulary and grammar much better and also longer, so you don't feel like you're stuck with studying English grammar and vocabulary. Most struggling English learners learn English superficially. They don't actively engage with the vocabulary that they are learning. This is incredibly important because if you worry about not remembering vocabulary as you're speaking English, there's a chance that you just didn't learn the vocabulary properly. You always need to make sure the vocabulary you want to actively use gets into your head. So you could also pull it out anytime, recall it anytime you need it in a future conversation. This takes time, and the best way to practice it is by speaking and practicing this whole skill of recalling it from your memory. And association is a really powerful tool for you to make sure your brain remembers vocabulary better, because your brain learns something best if there's already something you know and it can connect that to, whether it's a concept, a person, an event, anything. And one way to practice that is this open-ended activity that I prepare for my students, where their task is to complete a sentence with anything they can come up with that makes sense in that sentence, where the beginning of the sentence contains the vocabulary that they are learning. Here's a list of vocabulary, for example, that we learned with my intermediate students, so I help them communicate more effectively when they talk about all sorts of life events. And then we turn this into the following exercise that helps my students come up with creative ways to complete the sentences, so their brain is actually doing the work. It's making all those connections, all those associations, so they can remember vocabulary so much longer. What causes a lot of anxiety and depression in my country is the pressure to be successful includes. The reason having a strong community is important is I can't put up with when our society achieves full equality. I can never have faith in. People are too generous with. The disadvantages of working part-time could be some people don't know their purpose in life because things that are just facts of life in my country are groups who face quite a lot of discrimination in my country include But if you find it difficult to come up with these creative sentences, remember, creativity is also a skill that you can keep getting better at. You can simply use an AI tool to help you come up with sentence beginnings so you can practice. And here's the prompt you could use. I want you to create a language learning activity for me. Use the following phrases to make incomplete sentences that I can complete with my own creative thoughts. Keep the language of the sentences at a level an intermediate level learner of English as a second language would understand it. And this is just one of the many activities that my students use almost every week in class, in their training videos, in their course portal, or in their online worksheets that they get to work on that help them remember vocabulary when they need it in conversations. If you're interested in actual activities that will help you train your brain to remember vocabulary longer, that would only take you about 15 to 30 minutes a day to practice with to help you use more vocabulary actively, speak more clearly and effectively, and understand fast English speakers, make sure you sign up for my free English learning plan that will help you with vocabulary, speaking, and listening activities so you get out of feeling stuck with studying English grammar and vocabulary. This third one is a really cool activity that requires a study buddy. We all know how language is all about interaction, so learning together doesn't just make this all fun and interactive, but it allows you to learn socially, which is one of the most effective ways humans have always learned. This activity will help you keep vocabulary in your mind longer and also make sure you remember them correctly without forgetting what the correct verb was or making mistakes with prepositions. The activity is called patient dictation, and this is just like any dictation, but there's a twist in it to help you make the most out of this activity to keep more vocabulary in your mind. You or your study buddy should write a paragraph using or overusing the expressions or the grammar you're trying to learn to use better. Again, you can simply use an AI tool to come up with a paragraph, and you will find the prompt in the description as well. Make a paragraph using the following phrases, keep the language and the grammar of the paragraph at a simple level an intermediate level learner of English as a second language would understand, and you would write down the list of vocabulary you want to practice. But as an English learning coach, someone who always encourages people to learn English more effectively and use their brain to its capacity, I definitely recommend coming up with the stories yourself. When the paragraph is ready, or you've found a paragraph that has the vocabulary that you're practicing, ask your study buddy to dictate the text at a slow pace to you, and then you're going to take notes of what you hear. The twist is that your study buddy should stop at the end of every expression and give you 10 seconds to wait before you take notes of it. Let's give it a try together. I'm gonna dictate 3 sentences for you, so if you haven't yet, make sure you pause this video, grab pen and paper, and write down what I dictate. I will read the 3 sentences first, and then I will read them again where you can take notes. So first time, don't take notes, just listen to what I'm saying. Having people around you who support and care for you is important. That's why having a strong community can make you feel happy and less alone. Sometimes though, there is a pressure to be successful, which can cause a lot of anxiety and depression. Okay, so grab pen and paper and make sure you follow the countdown and only write when the countdown gets to 0. Having people around you who support and care for you is important. That's why having a strong community can make you feel happy. And less alone. Sometimes though, there is a pressure to be successful. Which can cause a lot of anxiety and depression. How did it go? If you've never done patient dictation before, this can be a challenge. But just like with everything, given how incredibly effective this activity is in helping you keep that vocabulary in mind in the long term and help you get rid of feeling stuck with grammar and vocabulary, I'm sure you'll make a lot of progress with your English fluency if you start using it at least 1 or 2 times a week. Now, which of these 3 activities do you think you're going to make a conscious habit out of in the next couple of weeks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You know how much I love interacting with you, getting to know better how I can serve you and help you here as an English coach inside my community or on my TikTok channel as well. Thank you so much for staying here until the end of this video and can't wait to help you in the next one. First activity that I'm about to show you, come on, I can't fucking say this sentence. Enough for my newsletter. I'm an English fluency learning and language anxiety coach. What? Make English more memorable, what? Confidently with the help of speaking and what? It's an IT coach and this is a channel for specific trainings for yourself and will also, but it will also that you could use especially